Flying Casual is brought to you by Patreon supporters Brent, Andy Dugan, David Bush, Rob Patsky, Jory Webb, Kelly Breckner, Nate Edison, and Wes Anderson. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast. Here's your host, Michael Canterbury.
Star Wars fans, welcome back to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast for a new episode on this Father's Day 2020. Holly, you're not a father, but we can still celebrate Father's Day, am I right?
Yeah.
Did you celebrate your father today?
I FaceTimed
You
him.
FaceTimed him. Did you get him anything? A little
No.
gift? No.
My attention.
I think that's very generous of you, right? Holly doesn't have a lot of time to give, so when she gives it, I mean, you're important, right?
I'm a very busy person.
You are a very busy person.
Got a lot of stuff to do.
That's fair. I don't disagree with you. But Holly, we do have a father on the podcast.
We do. And it's not you who I claim to be the pod father today.
I thought that was actually really funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely down. I hope everyone else liked it too. Can we start calling me the Podfather?
No, it's a one day only thing.
Oh, just kidding. Well, Holly, we do have an actual father who literally raises children to this day.
Let's be clear, real children.
Real children, not pets. Well, also pets, but like real humans that like depend on another human to survive.
Actual people children.
I don't think I can handle that kind of responsibility. But Luke, happy Father's Day to you, brother. How are you doing?
Doing pretty solid. Almost too many responsibilities with the number of beings over here. We've got the 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a cat. And the missus and I have to keep ourselves going as well. So a lot of things to keep track of over here.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I've got a nice beer to chill out for the evening. A collaboration brew, if you're looking for a beer. It's like a nationwide, even worldwide. Altogether, it's called. My variety is from Rheingeist, a nice little IPA. And it is for the pandemic. Some proceeds go to support hospitality workers who are laid off due to all the closures of things. So pick it up if you see it.
Well, that's freaking awesome. Well, now I can't make the joke I was going to make about the title of I was going to call it the Plandemic IPA from Rheingeist, but now I can't make the joke now, Holly.
It just doesn't sit right.
It doesn't sit right because all proceeds are going to first responders. Wow, Mike, you're a real dick. Mm-hmm. And that goes against the slogan of the show, Holly.
Don't be a dick.
That's right.
Or, as the guy said yesterday, don't be a sausage.
Don't be a sausage. That was... We're going to get into that here in a second. But Luke, so is that like your reward for the day? Is it like at this point when you have like pretty much, let's call her a newborn and then a young toddler, is your Father's Day present just, honey, here's 30 minutes to yourself? Is that like what the gift is right now?
Yeah, I'd say part of the gift is 90 minutes or so to do a podcast.
I almost felt guilty following up with you today saying, Holly's like, hey, you probably should follow up with Luke. I know you said you talked to him Saturday, but maybe he forgot it's Father's Day. You should make sure it's cool.
I will say one gift I received the other day that really warmed my heart I'm reading the Rise of Skywalker novelization right now. And my wife usually goes to bed quite a bit before I do because she gets up a lot earlier for work than I do. And I'm usually up, doing some things around the house, folding laundry, doing some dishes or whatever. And then I usually spend a little bit of time before I go to bed each night reading, usually a Star Wars novel 9 times out of 10.
Let's go.
Or Star Wars comic. And I had left my book, my copy of the Rise of Skywalker novelization in the bedroom. But before she went to bed, she made sure to put it out at the top of the stairs on the half wall, so I wouldn't have to go in to disturb her to get the book, because I probably just sort of avoided doing that and just foregone reading for the evening, because she's a really light sleeper. but she made sure to leave it out where I could get it for my reading time before bed. So that was like, I was like, oh, she cares.
That story reminds me of another story you shared about the missus. At this point, I think you were renting a Star Wars novel from the library, and you had it on your nightstand, and you came back, and she's like, honey, hey, like I returned your books, and you're like, which one? And so I feel like she's making up for that, at this point, and giving you some time.
That was with the book that came out before Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah, what was
Rise of the Resistance? I don't remember.
Yeah. That was the one.
Anyways, yeah, there was a miscommunication. She was like, "Oh, you remember that book you told me to take back to the library? I took it back." Yeah, it was the wrong one. I was only like 80 pages into that. So then I called an audible and I switched to the audio book, which I think I just went ahead and purchased to finish out the book. So yeah, I mean, she does her best.
Hey, I think that's very kind of her, Holly. It sounds like the Elder household is really embracing Father's Day. Luke's enjoying a casual IPA there, a Plandemic IPA. You and I sharing a line and Google together. Little summer shandy. Enjoying the 90-degree weather here in Ohio when it's apparently 80 degrees, in Alabama.
Yeah, it's a lot cooler down there, I guess.
Yeah, should be on the beach, but we're not.
Bummer.
Yeah. Well, happy Father's Day to all, including our very own Luke Elder. Guys, in the spirit of Father's Day, I'm sure a lot of our conversation, we talk about family all the time, right, Holly? Mm-hmm. So it's our conversations, it always actually revolves around family and often fathers, but in the spirit of Father's Day, it's funny that we're talking about Star Wars, Holly, on Father's Day, because when I think, great father figures, I don't necessarily think of Star Wars.
I never think of Star Wars.
Never.
No.
Just about Father's Day, you just unless it's this 90 minutes on a Sunday night, you're like, absolutely, I don't think.
Yeah, other than when we podcast, I'm like, Star what?
Star Trek.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what the future holds?
But no, I definitely do not think who would be a really good role model as a dad. Oh, somebody from Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't.
Not tip. Let's go. Who is a good father figure in Star Wars?
In my opinion, Bail Organa.
That's a good one. I mean, you can get controversial and say Han Solo. That's cool.
I don't think that is true.
Not your kind of father.
I don't. After reading Bloodline, I'm like, I don't think the Han was. I just don't think that's not correct.
Holly, great segue, by the way. Great segue, because we're going to give Luke a little opportunity. Luke, unfortunately, couldn't make the book club because he was, doing fatherly duties. And we're going to give him a chance to kind of air out some of his thoughts on Bloodline, and some of which I'm sure involves a certain father figure. Yeah, Holly, before we get
I have a rebuttal to what I just said.
Han Solo, greatest dad ever.
No.
You're a worthy opponent, self.
I think that not actually a father, but someone who was a father and a mother in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe Shmi Skywalker.
Come on.
But
let's go.
Maybe you said get controversial.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
I think she had to play both roles and make a lot of hard decisions. So I think that she might actually get the award for maybe even just like best attempt at parenting.
Yeah.
In Star Wars.
I mean, unless Shmi was lying to us when she said Anakin knows nothing of greed and he's selfless. Like, I mean, it sounds like she did a pretty decent job.
I don't think she was lying.
I don't either. I mean, what is she? Why would she? Unless she really just wanted to off the kid to the Jedi, like offload him, like he's a real terror. This kid's a huge dick.
What a dick!
I swear he's the best. He's an angel. Take him, train him. So who knows?
Oh, little angel Annie.
Oh my! Wow, you're sounding like Padme now. But Luke, in the spirit of Father's Day, I'm sure Father's Day, you have some thoughts that include Han Solo in there. But I want to allow you to get to your points on Bloodline. I heard you had a couple pages of notes.
I did. I will throw in, I think, real quick, that R2D2, if droids could procreate, I think he'd be a cool dad. I think he'd be like a fun dad. He seems just like a fun guy.
He's got all the tools, I feel like, for success, right?
And he's been around. He knows some stuff.
Wow. So he could be a father to a lot of droids,
That
is what
is
you're saying.
not what I meant.
I was just reading an issue of the Poe Dameron comic, kind of pretty deep into it, in the timeline post Last Jedi, where he's like, him and BB-8 are having this long conversation, and he feels like a father figure to BB-8. So we'll
my
say.
God, that's amazing. How is that Poe Dameron comic? Is that something we need to dig into?
I enjoy it. Yeah, it's I'm almost to the end of the run. I've got a few issues left, and yeah, I've enjoyed. You kind of get to see his involvement with the Resistance before, the events of The Force Awakens. So it's a good time. Yeah, you get a little more detail.
What was the comic line that follows his parents?
Shattered Empire.
That's right. That's the one. I haven't read any of the Poe Dameron one, but I read a little bit of that one.
And from what I hear, Poe Dameron's extremely successful. It's a pretty long running comic in new canon Star Wars Marvel stuff. So I mean, I think
30-some issues.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Aphra is one of the new ones that really took off and has been hitting it hard. I mean, you got the staples, you got the Darth Vaders and stuff like that. But when we're talking kind of like newer characters, Aphra's up there. But Poe, from what I hear, has been pretty successful. I haven't touched an issue of it. Closest thing I've got to Poe Dameron is the Shattered Empire stuff, where you kind of see his parents and where he ends up pretty much.
I haven't read any of the Dr. Aphra content.
Girl, we're going to. We're going to.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
That's okay. That's okay. And we're going to dig into that because it's that Marvel Unlimited app. You got everything on there. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you complimented Holly for her earlier segue, and now we're like 10 minutes into getting there finally. So let me talk about Bloodline now, right?
Absolutely.
Great segue, Holly. We made it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought, if anyone missed the listening to the book club discussion and has read the book or doesn't care about certain spoilers and wants to listen anyways, I thought it was fantastic. I went back and listened to the discussion, and despite my pages of notes, so many people hit on all of them. Brent, Jory, Paige, the two of you had a really great discussion. So I don't want to rehash and relitigate everything that was discussed. I do have one kind of question that I wondered and I didn't find an answer to, and maybe I should Wikipedia check if there is an answer to it. But I was left wondering, like, so many of the characters you meet who are part of the Senate, the Galactic Senate, you hear what planet they're from.
Yeah.
Kind of like what that planet's sort of about and stuff. So who the hell is Leia representing in the Senate? Alderaan's
great point.
Destroyed.
Gone.
She's representing the honor of Alderaan. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a great question.
The Alderanian diaspora she represents, because they talk about like there's certain lines about like, oh, how this will play on their home planet, whether or not they'll get reelected.
Yeah.
But it never addresses like, okay, Leia, what planet or who are you representing? Are there like at-large seats?
So I guess Senate? Maybe a bigger question then is, if you are in the Senate, and your home planet is destroyed.
Come on, let's hope it's not. But yeah,
let's hope it's not. But we know that.
Starting to sound like Tarkin here, Holly. Let's just say hypothetically, we destroy 6 planets.
Let's just say.
Okay, let's just say.
But 6 of those senators are not on their home planet.
We execute them.
We don't execute them. They're not executed. However, I mean, what happens to them? Do they just get kicked out of the Senate because they don't have any people to represent? RIP. But do they?
I mean, billions of people died on Alderaan. Billions. But there were people off-world, too. We meet some of them. I can't recall names right now, but we meet some of them that actually, I mean, other than Leia. But we meet some of them, and, they still need represented, too. But maybe it's just like they were part of the Republic. Their interest still needs to be served. And I'm sure she now has more time to focus on, the galaxy at large and other worlds and their needs. So it would probably seem kind of like a dick move to say, hey,
you're out of here.
I know you folks, you survived, you were off planet, and now you have no representation in the Senate. I don't know. Luke, did you have any theories?
That was my only theory, that, yeah, she's representing the diaspora of Alderaan for the survivors. I think there's this Princess Leia comic run that was only like 4 issues that was really early in the new canon comic era. And I think a lot of it's about her collecting that diaspora and organizing them and saying, we got to stick together, because the part of the plot is that the Empire is still trying to hunt them down and eliminate all traces of Alderaan in a way. And I think at one point they get a collection of ships, and they kind of keep all those ships together and move around with it. So they're always so maybe that's what she's representing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really impact the story. It's just something I was left kind of scratching my head about and wondering, certainly somebody, Claudia Gray must have thought about this to some degree. It's just never written about Leia in the way that it's written about other characters in the book, that they have these concerns about re-election and how it's playing with the people that they represent, the positions that they take in the Senate. So it's just kind of funny to me that you get that perspective about all these other characters, and you don't get it about Leia, and you don't get any mention of exactly what she represents. But again, it doesn't really, in the end, totally great story. You can focus on what's going on without it. It's just something that kept I had in the back of my mind that I couldn't quite shake. What's the explanation here? It'd be interesting to find out. But and maybe if somebody out there listening knows, give me a nice correction about what exactly that is. The second thing I had, which I kind of take umbrage with part of the conversation, most of it was fantastic, but if I was there, I would have spoken up. There was some talk about a romantic element between Casterfo and Leia. And what kind of ticks me off about that is I think it kind of takes away from Claudia Gray's brilliance in writing the relationship between these two characters.
Yeah.
They have, I think, one of the best, most intimate but platonic connection in a relationship I've ever read in a novel.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was romantic at all in any way, shape, or form. And that's, I think, a credit to Claudia Gray, because I think that relationship, writing that relationship in a powerful way, is a more difficult task for a storyteller than every story that contains a romantic relationship, or 99 out of 100 that contain a romantic relationship. And we kind of know that formula and know how it often goes. So to me, it would just showed her skill as a crafter of the story to make what hit me as such a powerful, intimate connection between two people on a purely non-romantic, non-sexual basis, the way that they connected with their shared pains and their past, which ultimately was part of the pain of the Darth Vader revelation that tore them apart to a degree, or at least for a time. I don't know if any of you thought about that. I know there were some comments made partially in jest about the romanticism between them, but
yeah, because Michael called him the one that got away.
Hey, here's the thing, and that's the actual, for me, it was more kind of in jest, kind of joking, because I don't know. Hey, Han's away. Maybe things feel a little dangerous. I don't know. There's this really handsome Italian, as we know, Papa Casterfo, make a meatball. That was spot on.
It wasn't even an Australian accent.
I'm working on it. But so for me, it was a little more fun, because I think what hit me most, and I think I kind of mentioned this on the podcast, is that it was so great to see people, as kind of as weird as Casterfo's obsession is with the Empire, and it feels kind of wrong, but you understand what he's getting to. The fact that two people on two different sides of the aisle could see eye to eye on a lot and agree on a lot and find middle ground, and they did work so well together. And that's a lot of what Claudia Gray did so well, is their dynamic and their dialogue, and just the way you could. And I just felt like you were there in the discussion with them, and that it was so easily disrupted by the world around them. And it's unfortunate, and it's just so reminiscent of our world and our government, and how we all agree on so much. To the core of it, a lot of us agree on a lot, and we allow other things to really get in the way of that agreement, to where we can be our most productive. We allow other things to get in the way, with social issues and God knows what else. But so I thought that was hugely impactful, and so the romance for me is kind of a joke. To me, some parts it was kind of hinted at. It could feel a little dangerous that she may be feeling a little
late
something.
night dinner, a bottle of wine,
A bottle of Alderon's finest, and a couple meatballs. Maybe they're slurping spaghetti.
like
Gets
Lady
a little
and the Tramp.
lady, like exactly.
One's a lady, one's a tramp.
Who's who?
I don't know.
Casterfo's definitely the tramp. Let's be honest. But I don't know. So to me, it felt very real, and it didn't. As in, like I kind of explained, it feels like the world around us, and it's unfortunate that these two people, worked so well together in so many regards, and then ultimately the world around them didn't allow that to kind of take place, and that it's very unfortunate. It feels like it happens every day.
And by the world around them didn't allow that to take place, you meant he was murdered.
Dun dun dun. Who done it? God, a Star Wars true crime kind of like
I keep saying
investigative
that we could do
thing.
a crossover.
I think we need kind of like a Star Wars murder. The ISB, that is
That's not
the intelligence,
right,
right? That's the Intelligence Bureau, whoever they are. I think it's the ISB, if I recall.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Imperial Security Bureau.
Yeah, I want some investigations. I want some,
I think
thoughtful interrogations, not being
there
tortured.
wouldn't be thoughtful interrogations. So it would be a lot of, we're going to coerce you into falsely confessing, and now we're going to murder you.
The ISB was doing some good work behind the scenes.
They were not.
I
don't believe it.
That's okay. So I totally agree with you, Luke. I think, most of it was joking. But yeah, Holly, anything else down?
You guys know how I feel about like strong characters and then stories getting turned into romance when barf. Like, I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
So like, I say yes, we're reading Dark Disciple, but that's different because it's set up a certain way.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that I felt about the whole Raylo thing.
Come on,
like, I want to vomit. I cannot stand that. Just let these characters do their freaking thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really bothers me when people try to like pull romance where there is no romance, and I'm like, you're completely missing the point.
Yeah, and that's, for me, I guess that I was going to bring up that same point, because I'm like, it's funny that I was so against a Ben-Ray relationship, and then here I'm like, hey, how about,
Well, it is a little different because like Casterfo wasn't
torturing her.
Right, yeah, and murdering millions of people. Casterfo actually does the opposite, right? Kind of selfishly, but at the end he's like, man, I really regret like voting for the death penalty. Yeah. But like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that he ever would be like, let's kill millions of innocent people for fun.
Yeah, he's just into the masks of the Empire, right?
The helmet.
Yeah, that's the helmet when I say mask. Anyway. Don't think he would actually pull that trigger. I found myself kind of we're just right now being like, well, Michael, why were you so against, something like that, but not, in this novel? And to me, it's more, I guess, the audience that, was probably introduced in The Force Awakens with Rey and Ben, and maybe even that younger audience, and them kind of seeing something like that on screen could have an effect. And more so, they're probably not going to read this novel. They're probably not going to pick up on that kind of thing until they get a little older. But I don't know. So for me, it was, I don't know.
But if Leia and Casterfo had been closer in age, maybe.
Hello.
But I just feel like, Claudia Gray says that many times throughout the novel. She talks about like the age difference and how the age difference should have. No, that's not what she says. She talks about the age difference and how the age difference is like the reason why Leia felt like Casterfo like wouldn't make a move.
Ooh.
So
that's fair. That's totally fair.
I don't know.
Yeah. Luke, anything else that you are really itching to talk about Bloodline?
No, like I said, you all covered so much ground, and so many people brought up a lot of the stuff that I had notated. Like I said, just encourage anyone who hasn't checked that out yet, who has any interest in the novels, definitely check out the book club, because that was a good addition.
Absolutely. In the spirit of Father's Day, an interesting, well, there's many articles on it, but an interesting quote came out today from this gentleman named Lev Grossman, who apparently wrote a Vanity Fair article on the rise of Skywalker. And apparently he had some access to the actors, talked to Adam Driver a little bit. And he's quoted as saying, he said, speaking of Adam Driver, he said that both Han Solo and Leia were way too self-absorbed and into the idea of themselves as heroes to really be attentive parents in the way a young and tender Kylo Ren really needed. There wasn't really that much of it in the movies, so I just think we have to assume his childhood sucked. So that's not a direct quote from Adam Driver himself. This is this author who talked to him, quoting him, pretty much saying, hey, we didn't have a whole lot of backstory on Ben Solo at the time, so Adam Driver really was, like a lot of actors do, even Mark Hamill was doing it with his character. This is where Luke Skywalker is in this moment, and I really need to understand. A lot of actors like having a backstory, and if there isn't one, creating one to really emanate that story in their character, and you really want to feel that what they've been through and their dialogue and how they're presenting it. So it sounds like how we're looking at that relationship with Ben Solo and Han and Leia is kind of where Adam Driver was going with this, that, Han's kind of reverting back to his old ways when things are getting a little tough, or maybe he's just feeling a hole in something in himself and he needs to fill. And Leia's kind of returning to her strength. And they even say that, I think, in The Force Awakens. They mentioned, we both needed to go back and find ourselves or whatever. So, Holly, does that surprise you at all? I mean, not really, right? We all suspected this was kind of a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not surprised by that.
Not surprised at all. I mean, in the spirit of Star Wars, another not so great father figure in Han Solo. Ultimately, it seems like these fathers are somewhat redeemed, right? Like Han Solo, when it mattered, stepped up, went to try to go save his son and make things right. Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, spoiler alert, turns back to the light and attempts to.
But here's the thing.
Yeah. Come on.
If they hadn't have been crappy dads to begin with,
Let's go.
then none of it would have happened.
Yeah, maybe their children wouldn't have turned out so messed up, right?
So I'm like, are you actually redeemed if at what cost? Because now you've ruined the lives of your children. You've ruined other people's lives. You've destroyed planets. You've caused all these problems, and that's your fault. And so is you coming back and being like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me use this one final act to show you how sorry. Does it actually really redeem you?
I don't know. I'd actually like to get the opinion of the father in the discussion, because Luke, I mean, you've got to be reading these stories and being like, dear God, my children are at a very impressionable age right now, and every decision I make could ultimately determine their fate or their personality, or their minds are just little sponges right now absorbing it all. Reading these stories, does this kind of thing worry you? I mean, what's going through your head?
Yeah, some real talk right here. I'll tell you, not to excuse what Leia or Han might have been like as parents, but also to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. You have certain ideas, I think, going in your pre-parent life about what it's like to be a parent. You've experienced it perhaps yourself having parents. You might have people in your life who are close in age to you, such as siblings, somewhat kind of relatives whatsoever, that are a little bit older than you and are experiencing it first, and you're kind of witnessing it through them and how it changes them and how they're going through it. And you formulate all these ideas about what it's going to be like as a parent, what you are going to be like as a parent. And then you actually become one. And there are things that are hard about it that you didn't anticipate or ever really imagine, or you saw other people struggle with, and you thought, I'm not going to struggle with that, and then you do.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. You don't know how you're going to take it, how you're going to cope with it, and I think there are children who rise above a bad upbringing, bad parents.
Yeah.
There are people who, despite having every advantage of a really strong home life, a strong support system from parents, who fall and really struggle. So there's a lot of intangibles that are hard to define about how a person's going to turn out. So I think, yeah, they might not have been perfect parents, but who is? And that Ben Solo maybe uses them as too much of an excuse for his own struggles.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to blame them. And
yeah.
I think they clearly cared deeply about him from what we see of the events of the film, especially it all kind of comes to fruition in episode 9 with Leia's outreach to Ben and the vision he has about Han, that he finally realizes it. And that's, I think, the most important thing, that you have people who, as a parent, who truly care, even though they're going to be imperfect and make mistakes along the way. So maybe that's just to have everyone forgive me for my own shortcomings as a parent, that I have to take this stance. But that's kind of where my head is.
Yeah.
Luke, we all forgive you unless your child becomes an oppressor and enslaves half of the galaxy and becomes, dark Sith.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely that will happen, Luke. So,
but don't forget, Luke, don't mess up, okay?
But I think
the stakes are too high.
But yeah, I think that for Han and Leia, I do think that they tried to do the best that they could, and hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I'm sure it's like, wow, these are all the things that I could have done differently that I didn't. But I also feel like, kind of like, throughout this storyline, they have conversations about how they need to be better parents, and then they still fall short of that.
Yeah.
Even though they recognize it. But also, I mean, like Luke said, real talk, like, there are certain things that children need in their lives to be able to grow up and have these secure relationships and be confident and be, able.
Yeah.
And I think that both Han and Leia were lacking that when they were growing up too. So they didn't really have, I know I said that I really liked Bail Organa as a dad, but ultimately, like, we know from reading the Leia book, him and Bria, they both weren't around very much.
Yeah.
So it's also true that if you don't have that and you're not actively like, I didn't get that as a child and I recognize that, so I'm going to do differently with my own child and really work on that, it's kind of hard to give your kid that. So, I mean, then we see that happen with Ben. Yeah. They tried, but they also had other responsibilities to the galaxy that they had to commit to, that they had to put above raising their child. Yeah.
And that's the child, I'm sure, in the moment doesn't. Leia doesn't. The whole beginning of Leia, Princess of Alderaan, she's like this. And I remember reading that the beginning of the book and being like, this annoying brat. You have no idea what your parents are up against and what they're trying to do. This is for your future. I was so annoyed with her. I just wanted to scream at her. But she realizes that, she just doesn't have necessarily all the information, but they've done such a solid job with, I don't know, just the way she, it's very evident the way she kind of accepts it. And she doesn't accept all of it, I guess, in the greatest when she initially learns about it. But it becomes, her struggle then as well. And they're realizing we can actually include our daughter in this fight. And that's where, you kind of, your children, I think, look at you a little differently too. You can be part of the solution. I don't know.
And we're talking about raising normal children. These are children that are force sensitive.
Oh, I know. Come on. Or they're the queens, the planets, or who knows? Like, they're these Jedi masters. It's just, it's insane. And Luke, I'm sure perspective changes with a second child, right? I mean, like, you're like, this one survived. Like, what can we do with this other one? I mean, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of things about the second go around, and again, I've only experienced, like you were saying earlier, my kids' approximate ages. I've only experienced life as a parent in the very early years. Yeah. So going through a second round of infancy was a lot less daunting the second time around than the first time around, because you kind of know the deal. And their needs are quite a lot more basic than kids' needs as they grow older. When kids start to have lives outside of their home in the world as they get older, and dealing with school and friendships and relationships and things, and understanding the greater challenges in the world and society as they become more aware of politics and disparities in life. Those are a lot more like challenging things to guide somebody through. Than just like make sure they're clean, fed, warm enough, hugged enough. Those things are fairly straightforward. So doing that a second time around, is easy. As my son gets older, and his thoughts start to be more complex, and he can express himself more and ask more questions. And then you're trying to figure out how to talk to him about certain things. Those things, they're a lot more complex to address than just like, I'm hungry, what can I eat?
Very true.
That's, I think, a lot of the probably the relationship between Ben and his parents that we see mentioned in Bloodline that you guys talked about in the book club, like the fact that they didn't tell him early on about Vader being his grandfather, Anakin being his grandfather. We look back on as an obvious error given how things turned out, but a situation where they, again, like giving the benefit of the doubt to the parent being one you want to be forgiven. I think they probably really struggled with how to approach it.
Yeah, they often don't learn the lessons of failure, and that's what's great about The Last Jedi. I know so many people don't like that movie, but it's all about failure, and I think we see that with Leia here. We see that with Han throughout a couple of novels, and I think including this one, it kind of represents his failures as well. But, they've had experiences that weren't great. Luke straight up told Obi-Wan, why didn't you tell me the truth? Things would have been so much better if you just told me the truth. Yet, 30-some years later, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Holding secrets.
I mean, even Leia, she was so pissed that her parents, kept her out of the loop on it, and she was only 16, right?
Yeah.
16 when they told her what was going on. Well, here we have Ben in his early 30s, and Leia still is like, no, he doesn't know. He can't know. Now I have to tell him.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to tell him who his grandfather was yet because it would shatter his world. Well,
world shattered.
And it's the same thing that she would have been so upset about.
Yeah. And sometimes it's too little too late, and it's how you respond, once you have that realization. And that's obviously what happened with Luke, and I think Leia too, and Han Solo as well.
Then you have the complication of, how early on was Ben being manipulated by Snoke anyway. So, that doesn't help with things. So maybe it could be that if he wasn't being manipulated by Snoke at that point, because it seems like that was happening earlier on based on the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, that, maybe he would have turned out a little differently. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll keep saying this for the next 20 years. That's the story I want. I want more of that. And I know we all kind of assume how things panned out, and we know his parents weren't great and Snoke tempted. I want to see it. Or I at least want to read about it, because it's, don't abandon the Skywalker story just yet. There's still a lot of story to be told. And then, even Ben himself, he's not a father, but he learns from his failures as well very quickly. And The Rise of Skywalker, let's be honest, happened real fast. And, attempts, redemption there. But I don't know. It's a story of failure, guys. And I can't even imagine Holly being a father. I can't imagine another human being, depending on me for all of its needs. And it's fascinating that we're talking about all this because my good buddy Thomas has been friends with for a long time, just told us last night that he and his wife are expecting this December. And I'm so happy for them, and
then Michael goes, "Do you know what you're getting?"
That's me not knowing how to talk like a father. Let's be honest. But it's just it blew my mind. One of my great buddies is having a baby. Like, he's going to be responsible for a little human. And I mean, we were asking all sorts of questions, and then like I just jumped to like, well, when are you gonna let him get a cell phone, Thomas? It's just like so much more is gonna happen before that, Mike. Like that's 16 years later down the road, probably. So, to me, it's I'm sure until you're there, it doesn't seem so complex, and you probably feel like you have all the answers. But like Luke said, like you're just thrown into the pool, and you respond, the best way you can, and maybe one day I'll be able to respond to those needs. But for now, I'll let Luke tell me all about it. And I'm sure there's just being great memories being formed. And he can share it all with you here on the podcast. We'll think of it as a little father therapy session. Right, Holly? I mean, just
sure.
Air it all out as much as you want, Luke.
Bring your daddy issues to the podcast.
That's what Star Wars is about. So, I mean, if we can't talk about it here, where can you talk about it other than, a therapist?
That is a great start.
Absolutely.
I think we've talked about the concept of therapists in the Star Wars universe
yes.
before. You know who would be the best therapist in Star Wars?
Wicket.
What?
Yeah.
No.
That's what the Ewoks did after the war.
Oh, yeah, you've said that before.
Yeah. Well, no, you go ahead.
Oh, Holdo. She's just like so eccentric, but I feel like she's very wise.
Oh, yeah.
And she just like
great point.
Says all the right things.
Also kind of weird.
Super weird.
Also kind of weird, right?
But kind of cool.
Kind of cool. Yeah, no, I'd love some more story about her.
Yeah, I would too.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Well, let's be honest, guys. The best father in Star Wars, I mean, Shmi Skywalker. Who else?
I said it.
Bail Organa. I don't know. Luke, any other fathers ring out to you before we get off the topic of, Father's Day?
Yeah, I think the old one that we've talked about before, that so many fans have talked about before, is like Qui-Gon seemed like a good father figure.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously the father who was cut out of the boy's life unexpectedly, tragically.
Epic fail.
And the what might have been,
God, yeah. Just a wise father, I imagine. But we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never. What that man, I don't know. I know Qui-Gon learned a lot kind of in the netherworld of the Force and learned paths that others hadn't. I just like, what else? Would he have tapped into that sooner? Could he have shared that with him more? So I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. I think we should talk about it sometime, though. We absolutely should. We don't talk enough about Qui-Gon. He's a great character, and I just learning more and more every day about him, to be honest. Maybe not so much learning more about, but looking at things through a different lens. I mean, I know people gave some folks crap about, Dave Filoni's comments about Anakin and the Duel of Fates and Qui-Gon, and I thought that was cool. Looking at things from a different perspective, the perspective that I had not really considered, like Qui-Gon raising this individual pretty much. I mean, it's not. I'm sure masters and their apprentice, like they are probably more of a father figure. It just so happened Obi-Wan and Anakin were more like brothers, and their relationship was very different from other couples.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with whatever the age difference is and when you start training, right? Yeah. Because I think that you can also have that like big brother, little brother, or big sister, little sister. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But so you can either have that sibling relationship where like I'm going to take care of you as a sibling, or that I'm going to take care of you as a parent. And I think a lot of that probably depends on the background of your youngling that's coming in. Yep. Because I think that something that, I don't know, it's hit or miss with the Jedi is how to approach those younglings when they're training them. Yeah. I think that's somewhere where a lot of the Jedi Masters kind of fail, is knowing the right way to train these younglings.
Absolutely. And let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. If your Padawan or your apprentice is destined to become one of the greatest Sith Lords of all times, you don't stand a chance. It doesn't matter how many pancake breakfasts you throw for the kid. You don't stand a chance. That's his destiny. That's what Star Wars is all about. Choose your destiny. Your destiny lies with... It's all about destiny. If that was his destiny, Obi-Wan didn't stand a chance. Doesn't matter. How many laser tricks you show him, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Laser sword tricks. I guess you could do a laser trick in Star Wars, but it really doesn't matter because he's destined to become darkness. And... Thank God Obi-Wan sliced him up a little bit to weaken him. I mean, God knows what we would have gotten with a full-on Sith Anakin Skywalker. Sans, his machinery. Whatever you want to call it. I don't know. He's a cyborg. Whatever.
Machinery works. I saw there was an interesting discussion that I saw today that people were having, and they were like, who would win? I don't know.
Come on.
People in the Star Wars community are like obsessed with like, okay, if this Jedi battled this Jedi, who would win?
Let's go. Who?
But this was Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Rey and Kylo.
Jesus.
I know. Why would you do that?
First
of all.
Yeah, come on. I want to know, first of all, who's going to win?
Oh, Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah, of course.
Hands down.
Hands down.
And then someone was like, I think that Kylo and Rey would be able to beat Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like an older Obi-Wan by himself.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they would be able to take down Anakin together.
Yeah. No.
No way.
There's no way. As someone who frequents, Battlefront, and dabbles in the hero modes, Anakin Skywalker is unstoppable. And I know I'm not the greatest Battlefront player, but if you're out on the field and Anakin's there, and it's God knows what level these people are at this point, 10 times where I am, he owns the arena. He just does.
Yeah.
He's powerful. So Anakin in my eyes all day.
Yeah, that checks out.
Right. Confirmed. Confirmed here. It's canon. Well, I guess if no one has any other Father's Day discussions, we will move on. Some other interesting news. I'm super excited about this, and I can't wait to share it with these two. These guys have not heard any of this yet, at least the details of it, but Star Wars is releasing another From a Certain Point of View book, and it's focusing on The Empire Strikes Back. If you recall the original From a Certain Point of View, we got kind of side stories of, not so prevalent characters in Star Wars, or some prevalent characters in Star Wars, but stories that weren't highlighted, the kind of in-between stories in the movie. And so we're getting another one of those for Empire, and some of these stories sound so freaking fascinating. It's just like they took the first one and they said, how can we, just kick that book's butt? I think this is going to be fantastic. You guys mind if I share a couple?
Please do.
A couple of these. Okay. So the first story we have, Austin Walker explores the unlikely partnership of bounty hunters Dengar and IG-88 as they pursue Han Solo. Ooh. Luke, I mean, I can imagine the dialogue is going to be pretty interesting with these guys. Pretty graphic, I'm sure. But how's that sound to you?
This sounds great. I think you're right, Michael. The first of Certain Point of View filled in some really fascinating bits of the story.
Yeah.
And it sort of expanded on certain ideas in a really fun way. So, given just how much more expansive the lore is in Empire Strikes Back, and the fact that you already haven't been introduced to these characters before, and you don't have to get the introductions, you can just get right to the heart of a lot of stuff, I think makes it possible for this round to be even juicier than the first one. So that sounds cool. I know Dengar, he's an old favorite because he kind of looked sloppy and like he was, I don't know, like it bandaged up from a lot of wounds like that. Maybe he's not a very successful bounty hunter because he looks like he's kind of haphazard in a way. So I think the dynamic between him and IG-88 could be kind of comical.
Yes.
In a way. So I'm hoping it plays a little bit on that.
From what I recall from Dengar in the Star Wars main line of the new canon stuff, the first line, I think he goes toe to toe with Chewbacca, and right, and he kicks some butt. I was surprised. I pictured Dengar like dragging one leg, right? Like he's this old vet who just he's all bandaged up, and I didn't see him being that mobile, but he kicks some butt with Chewbacca. So I also think, like you said, there could be some good comedy in here. We got some good stuff with IG-11. So, I mean, if we're kind of expecting a similar kind of personality with 88. You know, we've seen some stuff with 88. There's comic books about him and new canon stuff, and he's ruthless. I mean, he is in it for the kills. This isn't the bounty he's after. He's in it for how epic can I destroy these people, or it's a reputation that he wants to uphold. He's not really doing this for the bounties. It's for, you know, being a BA. So I'm that's going to be awesome. So I could definitely am expecting some comedy as well. I can't wait to see that. And who knows, that could, if it's, you know, an awesome story, who knows what we could get in an animated series or something, or even something like The Mandalorian with Dengar. I think that would be kind of cool as well. And then our second one, I think this is one that Holly's really going to take to.
I was like listening to your guys' conversation. I was like, maybe it's the Summer Shandy, but I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
That's okay.
I don't even know who Dengar is. I'm like, why didn't you come to me with that question? Because I'd be like, what?
Here's what Holly. And that is not a problem at all. That doesn't make you any less of a Star Wars fan because
I'm gonna get all the hate now.
No. These two characters had seconds of airtime in Empire. They like Vader's talking or like it's a glance, like they're in the background. And people are just, wow, they look really cool. And
I looked up, I was like, Dengar. I like Googled him real quick. I was like, who is that? And there's like, the only picture of him is him way in the background. Yes. It's super blurry. Yes. That's how far away he is. I'm like, sometimes I don't know how you guys know all the names of these like little characters that have seconds of screen time and then we never hear of them again. Well, like Luke will be like, hey, remember that one person? I think she was blue. And he'll be like, I know exactly who that was. Well, I don't know how.
Luke's a freak of nature, so that's how he does it.
And there was some good EU stuff in the Legends realm with Dengar. He was part of there's a Bounty Hunter series of books. So you got he was like kind of one of the main perspective characters of that, I think, too. And then Holly, I think, and this predates my generation because I was never like now that I think about it, I'm trying to think if I've ever owned a full-on Star Wars action figure, which sounds kind of crazy.
Wow, now I'm embarrassed.
But like, so I didn't grow up with Star Wars action figures, but so many of the people from kind of like the OT generation knew so many of these characters through the action figures because they made an action figure for like, you know, every character that got 2 seconds on screen. Yeah, and people ate them up. And so, like,
that makes sense.
I think so much grew out of these background, seconds of footage characters because of that, because people lived with them in their homes, and read about them on the back of the packaging of the action figure, and then it grew into like EU and stuff like that. So I think that's where it all stems from. A lot of it.
I like that.
Genius.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I am all for like learning about these new characters because some of them are like super fascinating, and I feel like the more people like want them, like if it starts with like an action figure, and then people are like, no, give me more. Yeah, they're like, okay, here's more. So I mean, that's super cool.
It's a genius marketing strategy, and then it makes more content later on. If you're like, wow, this guy looks cool, and you're telling me he's a BA, cool. I'm interested in the stories.
Yeah, because I can say that like, just from doing the book club, like my favorite Star Wars books so far have been about the ones that, you know, they're not the characters from like that you think of when you think of Star Wars.
Nice.
So
that's what I'm talking about. Well, tell me if this one tickles your fancy, Holly, because I think it will. Hank Green chronicles the life of a naturalist caring for Tauntauns on the frozen world of Hoth.
Yeah, I'm about that. I actually think that I said that a Tauntaun would be my preferred mode of transportation.
Yes.
So
being from Maine, I think you would appreciate that, right?
I could probably take it to Maine.
I'm actually wondering if they took this idea from like a story in the life of Holly Walton, because I mean, you're quite the naturalist. Like, I feel like there's probably plenty of animals up in Maine that you attended to. So I feel like they very well could have taken this from the chronicles of Holly Walton.
Absolutely, 100%. No, I think that, I don't know, I like the stories that have like the animals and stuff and like the creatures of Star Wars in it. That's one of the reasons why I really appreciated Ezra's character. Yeah. Because he had like that connection to nature and to the world outside of like the only things that matter are these creatures that are a little bit more able to talk and start wars. But like, I don't know. I think that's cool. So I would read that one.
Yeah, some of the more obscure stories, and that's what's cool, because like there's really in-depth stories about Yoda and Obi-Wan and Luke and Leia's future in the first, from a certain point of view, and then there's kind of more sillier ones, or like, you know, we talked about was it Dax? Did we do the Dax? I can't remember, but there's just kind of obscure ones that you're like, it's not really necessary, but it's fascinating, or the even silly ones. This one probably gonna be one of the more sillier ones.
But here's why it matters.
Come on.
Because we've said it a million times.
Yeah.
Star Wars and everything going on in Star Wars affected more than just Luke and Leia and Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, there were more things at stake than just these people's lives.
Absolutely.
So, like, seeing it from outside of these people, like, I think it was Luke who was talking about one of the stories from the first A Certain Point of View that was from, God, now I don't know, somebody else's perspective about, well, now I'm just rambling. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, you told the one from the other pilot's point of view, and I just think that these are characters, like we said, that don't get a lot of time, but like kind of tie in these pieces. Because
even though you see glimpses of these characters in the movies, we're building the universe out, right? You're making it bigger than the Skywalkers. It's we want a bigger universe, and this is a way of expanding upon it, but with characters you're familiar with that you didn't even know you wanted. Who knows? We may have never thought that we wanted this story about this naturalist. It may be one of the greatest Star Wars stories ever. Yeah, but could be. And let's be honest, that individual's probably really worried about climate change on Hoth too. So I mean,
and he should be.
Right?
You know what? Yeah. It hit 100 degrees
on Hoth?
No, in the Arctic Circle today.
What?
Yes. So Hoth should have been worried too.
Yeah. Wow, that really brought me down, Holly. Sorry. I don't know if I can actually continue.
Give us the next title.
Okay, no jokes to break that up? No? Okay. Next item here, we have Tracy Dion delves into the dark heart of the Dagobah cave where Luke confronts a terrifying vision. So we're going to a very familiar scene. It's very quick. Luke jumps in the cave, and then here's something, Vader in front of... It's a very quick scene for how such a huge impact it's supposed to have on him. So I don't know what more we can expect from this, but maybe we'll learn a little more about just the cave itself and its history. I don't know if we'll kind of like backtrack like that, if we're only talking about things in the moment of Empire, or if we'll learn a little more about this cave, because Dagobah is full of dark energy. Yoda talks about that. And the cave, that's the heart of darkness there. And he sends Luke there. I mean, that's insane. So what about this cave? Is it, was it calling out to him? Like, what is it that, I don't know. I'd love to learn more about this. So I think that sounds pretty interesting. And here's another one that I think is going to be fascinating. Martha Wells reveals the world of the Ugnaught clans who dwell in the depths of Cloud City.
Wow.
I'm fascinated, like Coruscant, right? There's this whole underworld. There's different communities. There's lots of things going on, right? We see that in television shows and all that good stuff. But like Cloud City seems like a amazing place to live. What about from the perspective of the Ugnaughts that, are kind of tied to these masters of theirs? Like, what are they thinking? Like, is there any revolt? Or what are they scheming? Like, or what, is there a hierarchy there? I want to know more about it. I didn't think I did, but now you're telling me that I want to know more. Holly, I mean, are you interested more?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, I'm first of all 100% on the side of the Ugnaughts.
Let's go.
Don't get it twisted.
Come on.
But I don't know. Maybe we have some sort of like Jedi washed history of Star Wars, and we need to know the truth.
We've seen Ugnaughts with laser swords, and it doesn't seem like it's probably, at least this Ugnaught that we saw in the comic book didn't seem to handle that laser sword very well. Luke, did you know you wanted so much story about Ugnaughts?
Well, I think there would definitely be more fervor for this with the success of Kuiil and the Mandalorian. To just learn more about Ugnaughts. And there's some great Ugnaught stuff in Rebels. I think that doesn't get enough play. The comedy of Hondo and the Ugnaughts in Rebels is some of my favorite sort of comedic moments in that series or really any other Star Wars series. So yeah, learning more about Ugnaughts will be cool. I know Jory did this in the last book club, and who doesn't love or hate a good Harry Potter reference on a Star Wars
let's
podcast?
Go.
But I get a real kind of house elf vibe from the social dynamic.
Good call.
The social structure that they seem like they're an underclass who is only stuck on like trash duty or freezing a guy duty. On Cloud City, you know, the tough jobs that nobody else wants, they fill in. So yeah, like Holly was saying, you could get kind of a story of their oppression almost. Or you know, not to say that they're all sympathetic characters. The way they threw around the parts of C-3PO when Chewie was trying to save him from going in the incinerator, that wasn't cool.
Great callback.
I'm sure
there's some dick Ugnaughts. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Not everyone's gonna be lovable.
Guys, listen. All I'm saying is that if I were treated the way that the Ugnaughts were, I'd probably be a big dick too.
Yeah.
I would probably just be so spiteful.
I could not agree more.
Thank you.
I absolutely think you would be.
Thank you.
And if we're talking about house elves, guys, one comes to mind, Dobby. Harry Potter, sir. Can I have a cup of milk? I actually used to do a great Dobby back when I watched the movie like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but this is a Star Wars podcast.
You're right.
Also,
I'll hold the Dobby references and impersonations for Swish and Flick.
Perfect.
So if you're listening, Swish and Flick, I can offer my services whenever you need.
Yeah, we're not big fans of J.K. Rowling right now, so.
Wow, topical. You're right. There's some issues there we won't get into, but guys, second to last here in the stories from a certain point of view, we have Mark Oshiro. I think I got that right. Recounts the. Okay, guys. Let me preface this.
Are you sweating?
Always.
Are you nervous about pronouncing this?
I am nervous about speaking at all times, Holly. So if you have not, picked up on that since we started, I'm doing something right, or not. I don't know. But this, before I reveal this one, I just feel like this is going to be the saddest story of all of them, and rightfully so. But Mark Oshiro recounts the Wampas' tragic tale of loss and survival, a story that maybe some would laugh at. Luke Skywalker, slashes the limb. You're just like, he deserved it. He's this animal. He's just out there trying to survive. And if you're on Hoth and everything around you's frozen and this juicy little teenager shows up, you're going to try to eat him too.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, that's just going to happen. He's just out there trying to survive. I think we're going to tap into this Wampas feelings. I think this one's going to pull at the heartstrings. Luke, are you agreeing here?
I gotta say, I hope it grabs me more than the Dianoga story from a certain point of view for A New Hope.
Come on.
That one, that's the trash compactor monster.
Yeah.
And there's a story in there. I think it was one of the longer ones in terms of page count. And it was from the perspective of the Dianoga who was like captured by the Imperials and then on like a swamp world and then put inside the trash compactor on the Death Star, which is kind of a cool concept, but it went on for a really long time. And I think it was the only story in that book that I didn't read the whole thing. I was like, I just can't take any more.
That's fair.
Of the inner monologue of the Dianoga. So I'm hoping it is better than that in terms of the Wampa, at least for my enjoyment. I'm sure there's people out there who really love the Dianoga story in A New Hope, a certain point of view.
That's fair. Holly, I'm actually kind of scared to get your opinion on this one because at one point, I think I recall you mentioning that maybe we should get a Wampa rug or a rug that, looks like a Wampa. So I don't know, if you're really feeling this one, if you're like, yeah, just let's butcher it, let's skin it, let's make a rug out of him. Well, I mean, he's probably going back to his cave and licking his wounds and just thinking, I got a family to feed.
Okay, so let me just clarify. I'm a vegetarian. I'm anti-poaching. I am anti-shooting things for fun. And also, I'm pro the concept that if you go outside, you will find animals.
Come on.
And if you are dicking around in an animal's territory, it's probably going to come after you.
Yes.
And rightfully so.
You're absolutely right.
So I actually 100% would be on the side of the Wampa.
Yeah.
Even though Luke has said that my pink blanket looks like a pink Wampa skin fur. And then you said I wanted to get the Wampa rug. Listen, IKEA sells a lot of fake sheepskin rugs. So if I ever say I want a Wampa rug, it's going to be a faux Wampa rug.
Not freshly skinned.
Not a freshly skinned Wampa rug.
Totally faux. I think I believe you.
Okay, good. I'm glad it was convincing.
You absolutely are. And you care for all, wildlife and I mean, it could be a deer, it could be a squirrel, it could be a wampa. I think you understand that, they have feelings too. They have a family they got to provide for.
Here's the thing. Some people will be like, Holly, it's just a movie. Like, chill out. Right? Listen.
Yeah.
There was one episode of Rebels that we were watching where Hera goes to get the new ship and she's on the landing pad and she takes it out, right? Mm-hmm. And then that creature comes out of nowhere and they just take the creature down.
Oh, yeah. That happened in Resistance so much. Why? Why do we have to destroy all these animals? Is that what I'm
thinking of, not Rebels?
No, you're thinking. No, you're absolutely right.
I thought it happened in Rebels. And then in Fallen Order, they're like, these poor animals, you like walk by them and it's like, kill it. Kill it.
Let's be honest. When I'm playing Fallen Order, I just tend to run around those things. And Holly calls me out. She's like, you need to up your skills, Michael. Come on. Murder that thing.
No.
So
they encourage it, though.
They do. No, you're right. I actually am surprised how much they encourage that.
But look, then what's going to happen is some kid's going to go out and he's going to be like killing all these like little animals, maybe not animals, okay.
Yeah.
But like little bugs and stuff for no reason. Yep. And he's going to be like, well, Cal did it.
Yeah, Cal did it. He's out there whipping out his laser sword.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
For the record, I do play like games like Call of Duty and Battlefront and Battlefield and things like that, and I like those shoot 'em up games.
Yeah.
But sometimes, especially in kids shows, I don't always appreciate the murdering of the innocent animals. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, if you're sitting here and you're calling Holly soft, you're wrong.
Oh, way wrong.
I mean, just play Call of Duty with her online once, and you'll see there's a difference.
You'll never do it again.
Never again. But and another thing, like listen here, Rebellion. Like, what do you expect? You're going on this planet you probably know nothing about,
right?
And you're just sitting there building this base, destroying people's caves, like Wampa caves. Mm-hmm. And that's going to happen.
And listen,
it's going to happen.
Let me tell you a story.
Come on, this is the best.
Just
I love it.
A really quick story.
A quick Wampa story.
Okay. Just like to make it short and sweet,
Phrasing.
a long time ago when Neanderthal us were sitting around some fires.
This is sounding real hot.
And we're feeding the wolves, and now suddenly, 36,000 years later, we have domesticated dogs.
We have Chihuahuas. Yeah.
Sometimes it pays to get to know the local wildlife.
So think if they had domesticated a Wampa. How wicked would that be?
I mean, look, the Empire wouldn't come knocking on their door.
That's for sure.
They would try, but I don't know.
I think they actually came in and destroyed them.
God, they just obliterate the planet instead.
Pretty much. And there's shards of ice everywhere. Then, guys, our last one here. Seth Dickinson interrogates the cost of serving a ruthless empire aboard the bridge of a doomed Imperial starship. So, not a whole lot of detail on there, but I'm always down to hear more about the Empire and what these people are going through. I find it fascinating.
Are you an Empire sympathizer?
No, I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm torn. No, I'm definitely not. But here's the thing. We think about, cool, we destroyed I'm talking as if this is real life.
You know who else was torn, Michael?
Yeah.
The centrists.
Slam on me.
Jeez.
So we talk about the Death Star, and it's awesome. Luke blew it up. Heck yeah, Rebellion wins. But it's like there were millions of people on there. And so, like, when the Star Destroyer is going down, and Holly, you'll find this in Lost Stars when you read that book. I mean, sometimes there's some love involved too, and they have lives, and it's like, God, there's just it's so much more complex than like the movie leads us to believe. So I'm always down to hear the Empire side of things, especially when things aren't going so great. Like, are people having moments of regret? Are there people like Ray Sloan, who we'll talk about here in a second for a little bit, who are all Empire no matter what and don't seem to have any regrets? So I'm all for hearing more about, like, maybe even in their final moments, but like, what's going to happen to some of these folks when things aren't looking so great?
You know, they could have defected and then they wouldn't be in that
They absolutely
situation.
could. Luke, are you a man that is interested in learning more about, life and the Empire on a day-to-day basis?
That's been a major theme of so much of the new canon novels, is really a lot of Empire perspective stuff. Like you said, a ton in Lost Stars. It really delves into that whole Death Star thing and what brings people to have been serving on there. So I think there's an interest in that story. And Alphabet Squadron deals with that a lot. What Holly just talked about, the choice to defect or not, and when you do that or when you don't.
Yeah,
that plays a big part in Alphabet Squadron. So I think there's a lot of interesting storytelling that's available in that avenue.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe people are having families on these Star Destroyers. I don't know. Who knows? But I'm always down.
Yeah. They kind of set us up in episode 9 to kind of learn more about the people who defected from the First Order too, because we come across a whole, planet full of defectees, defectors.
Yeah, ors, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So, I think that the stories are there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm always down to learn more about the Empire, and I think that's what's so great about a lot of the new canon stuff we're getting. Like Luke said, it's full of it, and it makes it, it makes the storytelling that much more interesting, and it opens up that many more stories, and it makes having conversations like this that much more complex, because you're like, wow, these are people too, and some of these people just were trying to have a life. And they didn't necessarily care what was going on. They just needed a job. And sometimes it just came down to that. So I don't know. It's interesting. It makes interesting conversation. And guys, before we go, there's a little game called Rogue Squadron. Wait, Rogue Squadron. That already came out a long time ago, though you may kind of have a similar vibe to Star Wars Squadrons. We all here have seen the trailers. Obviously, the multiplayer stuff looked cool. The game looked fascinating. I did a reaction. I was blown away. I'm a little concerned, Holly, about the volume of asteroids that there appear to be in space during this game, and we all know that's bad news for me.
Listen, you remember that game on the Nintendo where you had to, dodge the different asteroids?
And shoot them and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like that, but with better graphics.
Well.
And blasters that work.
Well, here's the thing, though. You didn't have people online who play this game day in and day out owning you while you're dodging those. So it's a little different. But that's me. I'm dodging. That's what it is. It's a first person dodging those asteroids, and then I get pwned. I get owned. It's insane.
We already know how this is gonna. Michael hasn't even finished Fallen Order, and now he's talking about starting a new game.
Don't tell everyone that. So it looked awesome. The graphics look great. There's even little bobbleheads and stuff that look so sick. You actually can personalize your cockpit and your entire board there in front of you. It all matters and is informative. I think that's going to be awesome. But I'm interested to hear what we're going to get campaign-wise, because I thought that was kind of interesting that we're getting a campaign here. Game only appears to be $40. I'm sure a lot of technology from Battlefront and all they've done in Starfighter mode's coming into this. But what kind of a campaign are we going to get here? We saw what appears to be Ray Sloan. I even think we saw Wedge. It appears we see Hera. So there's big characters in here. A lot of times we see them kind of combat planning and stuff like that. So I don't know, if we're going to dig into a lot of story here. But Luke, do you see us learning anything, new in this campaign, or are we just getting to know 5 pilots and maybe they have a little bit of story? But what are you expecting from a campaign mode? I don't know if you'll even get to play it. but you can surely come over here and play it. But are you expecting any new story here?
Yeah, I have to say, a little background, and I shared this with Michael the other day. We were talking about it when the trailer dropped. I've been out of the video game arena for a while. I don't know, 6-7+ years since I last had a working game system in the house. I kind of just wasn't my thing anymore, and I let it go. But my heyday really for video games, and probably the video game I was most excited ever about its release was the Nintendo GameCube era was like my era of most playing games probably. And one of the launch games that came out with that, it came out Christmas 2001, I want to say, was the sequel to the N64 Rogue Squadron game, Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader. And I was just so looking forward to the GameCube coming out and that being one of the launch games. And I ended up getting it for Christmas and just played it, I don't know how many hours over and over again. So when it dropped that they're doing a full-on, Rogue Squadron type Starfighter game again, that really piques my interest. So I'm going to have to invite myself over a bunch when it comes out. But story-wise, really a lot of cool potential to tie in more. I think it's really satisfying for junkies of the canon when there are more tie-ins, and given the time space it's taking place in, as far as I understand, shortly after Jedi.
Yeah.
That overlaps with Aftermath, overlaps with Alphabet Squadron, especially hinted at that the story is going to overlap with those stories, given some of the character reveals you were mentioning.
Yeah.
So that'll be really fun if it ties in. I think a lot of the characters we'll get as the main characters, who are the sort of perspective story characters, will be new and fresh like we tend to get with these scenarios, but they'll be connected and tying into these other established characters.
Absolutely. And Luke, we're already planning out Father's Day 2021 for you to come over, just have a day at a game. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I agree. And I think I'm most curious to hear about Hera. I think if that's her,
is that her?
I don't know. Everyone's saying it is, so I haven't necessarily seen Star Wars come out and say, "Hey, there's Hera, there's Rey Sloane." I mean, it looks just like them, but I'm curious to see kind of what she's. I mean, we know she fought at the Battle of Endor. We know that. Are we going to actually get glimpses of the space battles during that time, and immediately the second Death Star blows up? Okay, we got to finish off these ties. Are we going to get that kind of stuff, right? So I'm curious because we kind of know. We know ultimately what Rey Sloane does, but yeah, there's bits and pieces we need to fill in, and that's what this game will probably do. Holly, you saw the trailer.
Well, now that you guys are there's stuff that you guys are talking about that I didn't see, so maybe I watched
Nobody
the wrong trailer.
Did the first time. Nobody saw that stuff the first time.
Okay.
You're good.
I just I don't know. There were a bunch of different trailers that are out there that Star Wars put out there, and I only watched one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't impressed, so.
Wow.
But it's also not my kind of game. This is not a game that I would be oh, I want to pick that up and play it. So I don't.
But you will because you're on a Star Wars podcast.
Sure, so but I just this isn't really my kind of game. So I guess I don't know what I would want from the campaign side of things.
No, and that's fair. I think Fallen Order was your bread and butter.
Yeah.
When Holly games, that's what she's going for. That kind of.
Open world.
Yeah, but what's the gaming the series you like a lot?
Zelda.
Well, that.
Oh, I don't know.
The Assassin's Creed.
Oh, Assassin's Creed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your kind of bread and butter, and that. So I think that definitely hit your needs. And then, I mean, a lot of Star Wars gaming is built with space battles and stuff, and it's they've kind of gotten away from that a lot. So getting back into it, I think it's cool. And I said, I suck at Starfighter mode. And I'm going to get on there and practice because I'm sure it's going to kind of feel like that, especially when you're in the cockpit. I suck at that. I got to be that kind of third-person perspective when you're outside of the ship and you can see how you're moving. But, man, it's going to be tough. So I'm going to get some practice in here. But I'm super excited. I cannot believe we're getting a Star Wars game this quickly. So, I mean, they've got momentum going, Battlefronts. Yeah.
we're still in the pandemic, so
Great
what
point.
else are we going to do?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it sounds like they've been planning this for a while. We heard about Project Maverick for a while. But I mean, with, Battlefront 2's success and all the updates and how good it's been, and Fallen Order is just a huge hit. Like, they got some momentum going now. So it's cool that they're pushing out content. But I mean, this is a cheaper game. It's $39.99.
Yeah.
And apparently there's no like buying in things, add-on stuff like that. It's the game, and I'm sure they'll do updates later on, but like it's your skills that kind of advance you, and that's cool. That's what we've wanted for a long time. So it's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars gamer fan. So much more to come, and I mean, we haven't even talked about Mandalorian galleries, any of that stuff. We'll talk about that at a later time, but I just kind of thought, talking a little bit about, fathers and Star Wars and what's to come in the Empire from a certain point of view. I thought that was some fun conversation, and I know all of our listeners are looking forward to Squadrons. A lot of guys talking about it. I mentioned maybe we need to get our own Flying Casual squad up and ready to go. Brent and I were talking about what if you could even create your own squad logo and name and stuff. That would be so sick. I'm hoping we can do that. That would be a ton of fun. So speaking of that group is on fire right now. Somebody posted, I think it was Wade, maybe posted a meme that's kind of gone around. What was it, Holly? Give a quote in Star Wars, but change one word with sausage. And probably the biggest thread.
Yeah,
that's happened.
I was going to read some of those. I know we're running a little bit short on time, so I think we'll wait until the next episode, and I'll read some of the responses that were really funny to that. Or just get in the group and read it yourself.
Can we pick a top 5 sausage quotes in Star Wars?
Yeah, we can do that.
A Flying Casual top 5 sausages.
No, we can't call it that. We can pick our favorite quotes to replace a word with sausage.
We'll think
we
of a better
won't
one.
call it our top 5 sausages.
Top 5 sausages. We won't call it that. We'll think of something more clever. But God, that was a fun thread. You guys are clever, and it's just so enjoyable getting to talk to everyone in there. So if you're looking for fun and getting sweaty with some fans and having a good time, if you haven't checked out that group already, go do that. Jory also sent us an email that we didn't get around to. So Jory, we are going to get to that. So we will discuss his topics and theories. We had a lot to talk about tonight. Get to it, but we'll get to it soon. What else is going on, Holly? We announced the second.
Oh, the new book.
The new book club. Yeah.
Is Dark Disciple.
Dark Disciple, a favorite here in Flying Casual. And
I'm already halfway through it.
Let's go. So initial thoughts. Can we get them?
Oh, I like it. I think it's a really quick read. I think it's really entertaining. I think that there's a lot of fun, wit, and back and forth.
Yeah.
Very, to me, kind of similar to the same back and forth that Han and Leia have in the original trilogy. So I really enjoy that kind of sarcastic banter. So this one's been a fun one.
Good.
So far.
I know Luke's excited. He's smiling. He loved this one, as did I. So it's gonna be a good one. Well, guys, get to reading Dark Disciple. I think probably around mid-July we'll do another book club. We'll announce that here shortly once we get a hard date. And I have confirmed our 2 competitors in the upcoming trivia trials. It's also going to take place around mid-July. Wes is confirmed. Nate is confirmed. Two great guys in the Flying Casual family. I cannot wait to have them duke it out.
And what's the movie?
Our movie Solo, and it's going to be great. There's so much good stuff in Solo. I can't wait to watch it over and over again to write trivia for it. And it's going to be great because we have such nice guys and gals in our Star Wars family here. But Wes and Nate are a couple of gentlemen. And so I'm going to have to really pull it out and talk a little trash, make it a little, competitive. But a couple nice guys, just a thrill to have them on here. So I can't wait to start writing trivia and getting these guys prepped for it. It's going to be a good time. So stay tuned for all that stuff, guys. Happy Father's Day to all you guys out there and all you fathers to be. And
moms who are taking the roles
Absolutely.
of the dads.
Come on. When they're drinking beers and talking Star Wars, Luke, no offense. But, guys, it's been a hell of a ride. I hope you had a good time with us. I don't have any closing words, Holly. Any Father's Day advice?
I have none.
Just be a good one, right?
Hopefully.
Be a good one. Be a good father. We'll see you guys next week. May the Force be with you.